In the quiet gloom of ancient forests and churchyards, where the air hangs thick with silence and shadow, there stands a tree older than memory. Its trunk is thick and hollowed by time, gnarled like old bone, split and twisted, shaped by centuries. Ribbons of bark peel away, its branches droop and coil, heavy with age, yet alive with dark green needles that endure even through the dark months. Roots emerge from the earth like the limbs of some buried, nameless creature, tangled and sprawling, holding on to secrets too ancient to name. This is the yew, guardian of graveyards, sentinel of sacred groves, a tree steeped in stillness, yet pulsing with life. Around it, time seems to fold. Seasons drift by like dreams, but the yew remains, dark, watchful, unknowable. It is a tree of paradox, death and rebirth, poison and life. It is a threshold between the living and the dead, the seen and the unseen. Let's explore it together. So today we're going to be talking all about the folklore of the yew tree, because this is a very, very interesting tree that has been so significant through different cultures all throughout history, and there's so much mythology and folklore surrounding the yew. And the yew is a very interesting tree in the first place because it sometimes gets nicknamed the tree of the dead, and I'm stood here in a churchyard right now, and the yew tree is super common, found in churchyards all across Britain. In fact, there are over 500 churchyards where the yew tree is actually older than the church itself. The yew has always been synonymous with this idea of death, but also the idea of rebirth, and that's because it's a very unique tree. What's unique about a yew is that it can live for such a long time due to the way that it grows. So first of all, it's very slow growing. It thrives in dank, dark, denser areas of the wood, and the way that it grows is quite unique because there are many varieties of yew that have branches that droop down into the ground, and they will root into the ground and basically become new trunks. So what you get a lot of the time is these really old, gnarly, crazy looking yew trees that have sort of split or have all these different roots coming down into the ground. And because of that, it's also really hard to actually age a yew tree. So there's a lot of debate about how old certain yew trees are, but some of them get up to a really mighty age. Another reason why it's always been synonymous with death is because pretty much all parts of the yew tree are poisonous to humans and many animals as well. And that's because of a chemical called taxine, which is pretty much in all parts of the tree. The only bit it isn't in is the flesh of the berry, but I do not recommend eating that at all because the seeds are extremely poisonous. And even Shakespeare wrote about the yew berries being used for poison in Macbeth, so it's well recorded throughout history that this is a very poisonous plant. So it's got that really interesting sort of blend of life and death. As I mentioned, there are so many yew trees in churchyards all across Britain, and there are a few different theories about maybe why that could be. So to start with the most boring one, it's that they're really poisonous, so people would have planted them maybe in a fenced off area to keep them away from livestock so that they didn't go chewing on them and meeting an early grave. Another one of the theories is that a lot of these trees are actually older than the churches, so this could be a relic of a pre-Christian tradition. We know that trees were very sacred and important to Druids and probably to a lot of the pre-Christian beliefs of the landscape. So it's very likely that a lot of the churchyards were actually built on pre-existing sacred ground. So this could be a reason why a lot of churchyards have these beautiful old yew trees, because simply put, it was a sacred site already and they wanted to make it more familiar and friendly to the pagans by putting the Christian church on that land.
Another reason why yew trees are a popular one for churchyards is that they have always been thought to kind of absorb the vapours of the bodies in the ground, and this belief was really common in the 1600s, where people would make sure that yew trees were planted in churchyards due to miasma theory, the theory that smells and vapours and things would cause disease. So they plant the yew trees in the hope that the yews would sort of absorb the vapours from the bodies and protect people from harm. In Glen Lyon in Scotland, there is a yew tree called the Floating Old Tree, and this is thought to be one of the oldest trees in the whole world. It's certainly the oldest tree in Britain. The age ranges vary a lot depending on who you talk to. Most people seem to think it's about 2,000 to 3,000 years old. Some estimates go up to 9,000, but I'm not sure if it's quite that old. But it's a very ancient tree nonetheless, and this is in an old churchyard as well. It's very gnarled and mangled, very typical old yew tree. And it's said that in the tradition they would pass funerals through the branches of the yew. So it really is that idea of death and life at the same time. Because the yew tree is evergreen, it's also a symbol of that everlasting life. Like we talked about with it sort of regenerating itself, the same is true in the leaves. So this would often be used, even in the Christian era, for Palm Sunday or funerals and things like that, where people would bring the evergreen leaves of the yew and the branches into the church for celebration, or burying them with the bodies of the deceased. And people might bring them inside for the winter celebrations as well. Another way that the yew really symbolises this idea of endurance in life is through the wood itself. And the wood is extremely hard wearing and resilient, and it can actually outlast iron. And the oldest wooden artefact ever found in the world was found in Clacton in Essex in the UK, and it's thought to be over 450,000 years old, which is just incomprehensible to even try and imagine what the world was like back then. This was the development of tools, and the yew was one of the tools that was used. And they found this yew spear, and it's in the British Museum. You can go and see it. It's still incredibly sharp. So it just really goes to show how strong the wood of the yew is. And it's traditional all throughout history for them to use the yew for longbows, so that's really common. And apparently somewhere in this churchyard where I am right now, there's a stone where people used to sharpen the arrows for the bows, so I might go and see if we can find that.
In Irish mythology, the yew held a sacred status. It was one of the 5 chieftain trees, and medieval texts describe that it was thought to have been brought from the other world during Ireland's ancient division of land. Ireland was under Brehon law long before the Norman conquest, and in that law, the yew was one of the most 7 revered noble species, and there was a hefty fine for harming one. In the Irish Book of Leinster from the 12th century, there is a tale of the tragic love of Balla, heir of Ulster, and Ellen of Leinster. Their provinces were feuding, but despite this, the two fell in love. A messenger falsely told him she had died, and overcome by grief, he collapsed and died himself, or some versions say he stabbed himself. A yew tree grew from his grave, bearing the likeness of his face at its crown. There's also a 12th century Irish tale, the Yew Tree of the Disputing Sons, where ownership of a supernatural yew sparks a fierce feud. The yew's timeless role as a bridge between worlds, life, death, and even the other world are well documented within Ireland's written lore.
So I'm really excited today because we have come to some of the oldest yew trees in the country, certainly in the northeast, and we're in Hexham at St Cuthbert's Church, and stood right behind me is an extremely old, beautiful yew. We were just amazed when we walked through the churchyard and saw this standing here. And like I was saying before, there's a bit of contention about the yew tree's ages. People can't quite agree on it. So some people say that this tree is about 900 years old. But then there's also kind of local folklore about St Cuthbert preaching under this tree, and he lived a little bit before that. So if we're going off those stories, the tree could be up to 1300 years old. So it's definitely one of the oldest trees in the country, not quite as old as the one in Glen Lyon, but still really, really impressive. And you can see that the tree has actually been held together by chains, and some of these chains are over 100 years old themselves, and it's something that's been done in order to protect the tree. So the way that it grows, it can be susceptible to splitting and sort of damaging itself, so keeping it all chained together like this is just making it strong and making it endure for many more years to come. And it's looking wonderful, so I hope it's going to be here for hundreds and hundreds more years. So apparently this tree was entered into a national competition to win Tree of the Year. It didn't quite win, but it did win £500, so that's what they've used to do the chains, and then also they did a little bit of conservation work just to make sure that it was going to live for a long time. But when you're around the yew trees, you can just certainly feel how ancient and sacred they are, the shape of them, the way that they grow. I'll show you around the corner, but it literally looks like a dragon and gargoyles coming out of the tree. Obviously they've got this dark foliage and these like sweeping branches. It's really magical to stand in the presence of a yew tree, and actually there's not that many yew trees in the north of England. Obviously I'm from the north of England, and I'm always on the hunt for yew trees. I wanted to do this video for ages, but I didn't know where I could find a good yew tree until my lovely partner Andy found these ones for me, so that's why we're here today. So there are actually way more yew trees down south, so I'm very, very grateful to have come across this absolutely beautiful one here. Another bit of local folklore, which everywhere seems to have a claim to this, is that when St Cuthbert died, basically his body was on Holy Island and it got moved down to ultimately Durham Cathedral, where it is now. But that journey took 100 years, so there's 100 years of Cuthbert's body that is just unaccounted for, and there are various different places along the way that say Cuthbert stayed here for a bit, Cuthbert's body remained here for a bit, and this is one of those places as well, which is why it's St Cuthbert's Church. So lots of lovely stories about Cuthbert in this area. You see here how clear that dragon is. It's so incredible. It's literally just poking right out of the tree, and there's just these gnarly crazy shapes all over this beautiful tree. Like I was saying, it literally looks like gargoyles, and I've never seen a clearer dragon's face than that. So I think we've found the lines where they would sharpen their arrows all the way down here.